First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello everyone, this is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thanks for joining us. We are live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. As we do every weekday starting around 1 p.m., we cover a wide range of topics on this show. And right now, we are talking about avian influenza, aka bird flu, and a recent spike that has been found in the state of Oregon. So we're going to cover what that is, talk about the concerns, things you need to know about if you encounter wildlife or even livestock. And to do so, though, we have an expert joining us right now. We have state wildlife veterinarian Colin Gillin, who's here. And thanks very much for having some time to talk to us. And obviously, when you hear the words bird flu, you know, people can certainly be concerned about that. And that's what we want to talk about here with this. Is to start off, can you tell everyone exactly what avian influenza is, what this strain is that's here in the state, and how long it's been around?
Sure. Hey, Greg. Avian influenza is a bird virus. Obviously, it comes out of birds. It resides primarily in wild birds and primarily in waterfowl and shorebirds. The virus evolved with them many eons ago when birds started to evolve. So it's been around a long time. There are a lot of strains of bird flu. About 144. Most of them do absolutely nothing to birds. They're considered low pathogenic strain or causing low or no disease. There are a handful of them though, and one that we're seeing in Oregon and throughout the U.S. now that is considered a highly pathogenic or causes high amount of disease, primarily in poultry, and which is chickens, turkeys, that sort of avian species. And so those are the ones we worry about the most. There are birds such as ducks, the dabbling ducks that you see out on the lakes and in the rivers, like mallards, pintails, that carry almost all the strains of avian influenza. And they can carry this, the one that we're seeing now, which is a highly pathogenic bird flu, and the strain is known as that we're seeing as H5N1. That's what it's referred to, and the H's and the N's are certain proteins on the surface of the virus that identify it as being a high path strain. This strain does very little disease generally to wild birds, the mallards and the pintails and the wild ducks and shorebirds move it around. And so they're moving at this time of year during the migration, fall migrations from their summering and breeding areas to the north, down through the different flyways. There's 5 flyways across the continental U.S. that run north-south, and we're here in Oregon, we're in the Pacific Flyway. Currently, we're seeing a spike in bird flu cases in wildlife. And in wild birds. This virus started, I should add this, is back in about 2021. The strain of it did. We also had a different bird flu strain in 2004, and then we had one about 2014, 15. And what generally happens is we see it in the fall, summer, fall, and then it goes through the winter. It creates a lot of damage to poultry. A lot of poultry facilities that get this, the birds will start dying, and so they have to euthanize all the birds within those facilities that are infected. But come the next summer, some of those other, I said there's 144 strains, some of those other strains that are not as pathogenic, they outcompete the real bad ones, the bad actors. And then that strain of that's causing death in chickens and turkeys goes away, basically. However, with this case that started in 2021, it's a Eurasian strain. It's from Europe, Asia, that made it into the U.S. in that December, right at the end of 2021, and it continued to spread primarily from the northeastern part of the U.S. Across to the west. We also had some that came across the Bering Strait and down through our Pacific Flyway, And so we had it from both sides, basically, and it did a lot of damage throughout the U.S. But one of the things that was different with this is this Eurasian strain, or the strain from Europe and Asia, combined with our North America strain, and it kind of set up shop, and it didn't burn out like the other ones did, as I explained. And so it's been around for 2.5, 3, 4 years now, and probably is going to continue to reside in North America for some time.
When we're talking about the wildlife that are carrying it, so the wild birds that are carrying it, how often is that transference happening between them and poultry and livestock of that type?
It's not very often, but it does occur. And when in 2021, 22, last year, and into this year, where we see it a lot of times is in backyard flocks of poultry. And so how that occurs is they have ponds, and they have, these backyard flocks. They're usually non-commercial flocks, and ducks land in those ponds. These dabbling ducks, they pass the virus through their feces. And so the virus can actually live in the water, particularly if it's a cool water, and can live in organic matter, which would be in the bottom of the pond. And then other birds that come to like poultry, ducks, chickens that feed in those ponds, can, when they're drinking water or rooting around in the mud or whatever, they pick the virus up, and then it causes disease in those birds, and the duck flies away. It's gone, and off to another pond to spread the virus. But it's the avian influenza is nothing that is unnatural from a wildlife standpoint. It occurs in wild birds. It's not something that we actually try to manage in wild birds. What we try to manage is the what we call the biosecurity, of our own birds, our poultry, our backyard chicken, our commercial poultry, and we've also seen this new virus that has spilled over, started in Texas, probably came from a wild bird got into a dairy farm. And then we've now seen it in almost 400 dairy farms throughout the U.S. We have current cases in Utah, and I think 170 cases of herds in California of dairy farms, and that has spread primarily from dairy to dairy. It started from wild birds, got into a Texas farm, and then spread through the U.S. Through the movement of cows, dairy cows, as well as products, milk and other products, through our system of import and export. So it's been a hard one to stamp out.
So looking at that crossover then from poultry to dairy farms, how concerning is that, seeing that, transferring to a completely different animal? Is that something that could go to humans, or is it something that we need to worry about when it comes to supply chain of dairy products?
We do worry about it jumping from animals to people. It'd be a grave concern, particularly to our public health individuals. And so the movement of the virus from the dairies and into dairy farmers is what has occurred. It's occurred about a little less than 40 times, but we've seen it in farm workers, and it's a concern to the farm workers as well as public health. It has not been spreading from dairy to human and then human to human. That's really a concern, and that's happened with a lot of back in 1918 we had this avian influenza spread from bird flu to people, and then went people to people, and of course it actually caused the deaths of up to 50 million people throughout the U.S. So we want to avoid those types of pandemics, and that's why whenever we see it in a human or see it in a farm worker, public health is right there on the spot to investigate and control that, to make sure it doesn't become a human outbreak. So there is a concern. This virus so far hasn't been jumping from people to people. It's been coming from dairy cows to dairy farm workers, and we're keeping an eye on that. Oregon the other day had, which was in the news, we had one case in a hog, a backyard farm type of facility, had multiple species, and we worry about it going into pigs. There's cases with bird flu that have combined with flus that pigs carry, and those have had an easier time of jumping into humans and then spreading human to human. And so whenever it's in a pig, and it came from a bird, public health is very, very interested in that, as is our Department of Ag and our state vet through the Department of Ag. And so we pay attention to all these outbreaks. They're all important, and that's why we have a lot of people hired to monitor this and react and respond.
What are some precautions and important things that people should know, whether they own livestock or are encountering wildlife that may be sick in some way?
Well, I can tell you, I'll just speak from the wildlife standpoint, since that's what we do. And as with hunters, we tell all hunters, do not harvest, do not hunt, or pick up birds that obviously are sick or are already dead. Leave them alone. Leave them where they are. And as far as just general general cleanliness and our own biosecurity as hunters, is to just make sure that you wash your hands before and after handling birds that we hunt. It's always better to field dress, to field clean the birds in the field, outside, and don't bring those in our houses, as well as having dedicated tools for such things. Having your hunting knife that you only use for those specific purposes. And the reason that we tell folks to make sure that they wear latex or nitrile gloves when handling wildlife, particularly like ducks, if we're doing ducks, is that a lot of people may have also have backyard chicken operations or turkeys or something, and it would be an easy opportunity to handle ducks while you're hunting, and then go home and spread the virus to your backyard chickens. And we want to totally avoid that. And there's ways to do it. We just need to maintain the hygiene.
Anything else that you think is really important just for the general public to know about the bird flu cases that are happening right now and how it's being contained?
Right. So we've seen multiple cases in Oregon, primarily in wild birds. We've had some deaths. We've seen it in a peregrine falcon. We've seen it in white pelican, American white pelican, out of the Eugene area, as well as sandhill crane, and then lots of cackling geese. The cackling geese seem to be very susceptible to this highly pathogenic avian influenza. And so if you see sick or dead birds, you can call our toll-free number. It's 866-968-2600, or look on the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife website. Give us a call here at the lab, and we can either respond to the outbreak or send somebody out to it. The other thing is you call your local ODFW office if you see sick birds or dead birds of any sort. So that's all we ask is if we know about it, we can respond to it.
If you see it, report it, and get somebody out there, an expert to go to take a look at it. Well, Colin, thank you very much, for having some time to talk to us about this and explaining this out. Is there anything else that we left out that would be important for people to know?
Yeah, I just I think that it's important to realize that this is out there. It's probably not going to go away anytime soon. There's ways to mitigate the risk, and we just need to make sure you keep things clean, wash your hands. I would not say to avoid anything that you're already doing. It's just we'll just manage how we handle animals a little differently.
Yeah, comes out of that cleanliness, and then also making sure that you're not crossing that over from wildlife into the chickens in your backyard, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah, some important things to know there. Well, thank you very much for having time. I really appreciate your help in explaining this today.
Hey, Greg, thanks for having me.
And for everybody watching, this is Fox 12 Now. We're live streaming here. We have lots of segments for you to check out at the Fox 12 Oregon YouTube channel, KPTV.com, or the Fox 12 Now tab, or of course on the Fox 12 Oregon apps. And feel free to share this segment as well. Thanks for joining us. I will talk to you soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12.